All right, good morning, everyone. Wow, it's going to take a while to get used to doing this. All right, so lots of action last night, 7 games, and so let's get right into it. Last night could be marked by two things overall: one, transportation problems, and two, great goalie performances, which is unusual, especially for the first game of the season. Usually, first game of the series, you have like what the first game that we're going to talk about. A game that featured very sporadic defense. Binghamton goes to Hudson Valley, first by bus and then by minivans. And anyway, they pull out a 9-6 win. The shots are not accurate, but it's the best that we have. So that's what we went with. This is what's listed on the Fed website. But in the first period, shots were not being tracked. We really don't know how many shots on goal there were in the first period. Nonetheless, it's Nolan Egbert and Eli Bowers in goal for the respective teams, and a crowd of 450 for the opening night game for the Hudson Valley Venom. Cameron Clark ends up getting the game-winning goal. It's a lot of back and forth. Binghamton had taken a 4-1 lead. Hudson Valley came back, tied it up. Eventually, Cameron Clark got that game-winning goal, 5:43 of the third period. The key moment, that was pretty much it. Hudson Valley had just scored a minute before, and Clark responded. And then at that point, Binghamton was able to get a couple more goals. So that's our first game. Again, remember, I'm just highlighting the first few. Athens taken to the limit, so to speak, by the Blue Ridge Bobcats. Athens does pull out an overtime win, 3-2, but Blue Ridge led this game 2-1 for quite a good while. It was Jack Bostet in goal for the Rock Lobsters. Like I said, getting used to this. And anyway, yes, stops 28 of 30. Connor Green, one of the great goalie performances. Faces 42 shots, saves 39. Unfortunately, he needed one more save. As Kason Gallant, he leads the league now with 5 goals in 3 games. Gallant scores at 2:24 of overtime to give the Rock Lobsters the win before a crowd of 1095 at the Hitachi Energy Arena. The key moment of the game, again, Blue Ridge had led for much of the game. Late in the third, Hunter Alden scored to tie it up and force an overtime. That really was the pivotal moment. All right, transportation problems. Well, Danville, the Dashers, they don't have a bus, so they borrowed the Port Huron Prowlers bus to get to Watertown. Put up a good fight. It was 2-2 late. Watertown ends up winning 4-2. Watertown peppered goaltender Parker Rutherford with 49 shots altogether. The final shot was an empty net goal. But nonetheless, Parker Rutherford, saves 45 of 48. Another one of the great goalie performances last night. And surprisingly, the Dashers led this game twice. First 1-0 and then 2-1. It was the game-winning goal by Dylan Infantino at 15:32 of the third. And Infantino scoring 2 goals, that helped the swing go back to Watertown. So very entertaining game. 957 was the announced attendance on a Friday night in Watertown. Watertown now 2-1-0. And Dashers try and see if they can get their first win tonight as the two teams repeat. All right, so yeah, Borodkin saves 24 of 26. All right. And in the late game, this was the last game that ended last night. That was Mississippi SeaWolves eking out a 3-2 win over the Baton Rouge Zydeco. I was so glad to see that there was a good compete level throughout the game by the SeaWolves, whereas Thursday night there was nothing. So these two teams played a very hard fought game, and that was good to see. Goalies Greg Hussey, once again, he comes back and has a much better performance from game one. And Brendan Colgan made his debut this year for the Zydeco. And the key moment ends up being the response goal. Just a minute 12 after the game had been tied up, that was Chris Hansen with the game-winning goal. 14-12 of the third period. A rebound just sneaked past Colgan. Good crowd, 37-14 on hand last night at Baton Rouge, and the shots were 36-29. Hussey saving 27, and so yeah, much better performance last night. So that's the four games that I did not watch. Remember, as I said, with 7 teams, I can't be keeping track of all the games. So I focused on 3 games. These were the ones I did not watch and kind of highlighted on. Looked at the detailed reports, talked to some people who were watching this game, get their feedback on what they saw. So let's change boards and focus on the other 3 games. Okay, so the first game, and I honestly thought that this was going to be a much tighter game than it was. The the game kind of ended up devolving into a lot of frustrations, shall we say. Carolina, another team that had bus trouble. The bus troubles continue. So, a couple teams really need new buses, and I'm not making jokes about that. This is something that, you are a bus league. You need to make sure that your investment in the team is protected by making sure you have reliable transportation. So, call out to some of the owners. Get a good bus. All right. That's my soapbox moment. Okay, so Carolina continues just where they left off with Port Huron. They just find ways of winning. Port Huron, it seems like these two teams meet and it's a good matchup on paper, and then somehow, some way, Carolina ends up on top. So 4-0 shutout. And here's another great goalie performance. Boris Babic comes back after a year off. Well, he didn't have a year off. He played last year in Ukraine. But nonetheless, he's still got it. He takes a year off from the Fed, comes right back, and gets a shutout on opening night. How about that? And his wasn't the only shutout. All right, so we ended up with the two teams, Carolina in their new road whites, looking very sharp, and Port Huron in the, as I call them, the Ronald McDonald's. That's not really a bust. It's very unique. All right, a good crowd, 1475 on hand, and first period, Jacob Schnapp gets the Carolina Thunderbirds on the board during a power play. There was not a lot of 5-on-5 time last night. There was always somebody in the box, it seemed. Will Wiggleman made a comment about that. I was like, I was about to talk about 5-on-5 play, and that lasted for a minute and a half. So, anyhow, so Schnapp gets on the board. Nice little play. And then at 16:02, it's the last guy that Carolina signed, Jordan Gagnon. He scores at 16:02. And then late in the period, there's an old-fashioned tilt between Dan Chartrand and Gordon Whalen. Ends up kind of devolving. Whalen ends up taking a 5-minute a match penalty for spearing. And so, he's going to be the first player of the year suspended, apparently, for the regular season. I know there were a couple of suspensions from the exhibition games. Nonetheless, it was 2-0 after one. Shots were 14 aside. Port Huron was getting their chances, but Babick was barring the door. In the second period, it's Yuri Pastuka on a tip-in at 5:44. And then at 7:37, it is Jordan Gagnon again. A deflection off a defenseman, off the Port Huron defenseman, and took a crazy bounce, got past Sokolov. And so it's 4-0, and that was all the scoring at that point. The game ended up being very chippy towards the end. Shots in the second period, it was 14-11 in favor of the Thunderbirds. And then in the third period, it just got very kind of hack and whack, and there wasn't a lot of flow to the game in the third period. Shots were 7-6 in favor of the Thunderbirds. Ends up as a 4-0 victory for the Thunderbirds. Clay Keeley, he got a game misconduct for abuse of officials. Typically, that does not result in a suspension. So for the game, Gagnon, 2 goals. Schnapp had a goal and an assist. And, of course, Babick, 31 shots, 31 saves. 52 penalty minutes for the Thunderbirds in the game. Sokolov went 31 of 35. He had a better performance than the number suggests, but sometimes the bounces just don't go your way. So Carolina gets on the list with their first win, and Port Huron will try and return the favor tonight. All right, in Danbury, it was a 4-2 win by the Rockers. This was a rematch of last year's first-round playoff series that was excellent. And this game really, probably the best, one of the 2 best played games as far as just quality of play. Both teams really, they looked like they were in mid-season form. So, the Rockers end up getting the win. Let me flip my notebook here, look at my notes. Rockers score the first goal. It is Eli Rivers at 10:02. And in the meantime, Danbury in the first period doubled the shots on goal, 14-7. But Ricardo Gonzalez, or as I call him, Rico Suave, he was stopping a lot of stuff. Connor McCollum returned in goal for Danbury hat tricks, and not the results that he was looking for or hoping for. Alexander Gamzatov, he scores at 17:34 to even things up. So we go into the first intermission tied up at 1, but again, Danbury getting twice the shots. And that would continue. In the second period, it was 22-10 as far as shots on goal by the hat tricks. And Gonzalez put on a show. He showed he is ready to be the number 1 guy. In the past, we were talking about the Trevor Babin show. Gonzalez is a very, very good goalie, and he showed it last night. Second period, 31 seconds in, it's Josh Colton. He scored a little bit of a surprise on McCollum. 8:44. It's this was kind of a weird play. It's Miriam Pazitka scoring to make it 3-1. And he did a little excessive celebration, shall we say. So he scores a goal, but gets a 2-minute minor for unsportsmanlike penalty. Goes into the box. And the 2 minutes runs out. As he's coming out the box, he's fed a stretch pass, and he goes down and scores again. So that time it is a 10:52. Uh, very, very odd. So yeah, Pizzica scores on the breakaway, and it's now 4-1. Um, it's almost like, yeah, I planned that. So late in the period, 16 minutes in exactly, it's Gamzatov again. He scores for the hat tricks. And then immediately after this, there was a weird play in which Johnny Ruiz ended up taking a very odd hit, and he did not return for the third period. Of course, if you do not know, if you are not a Danbury fan or you don't watch Danbury a lot, you know that, well, you know now, as I'm telling you, Johnny Ruiz is the heart and soul of the hat tricks. To lose him, it's like losing Wayne Gretzky. It's like losing Bobby Orr. It hurt. And as such, even though Danbury continued to pepper Gonzalez with shots, they held a 15-6 shot advantage in the third. They just couldn't get a puck past Rico. And so we ended up with a 4-2 victory, 51 shots on goal for the hat tricks. Only 2 went in. Good crowd, 1724 on hand. And Gonzalez ends up stopping 49 of 51 for a 961 save percentage. Fantastic. Pizzica got his 2 goals and an assist. Josh Colton, a goal and assist. Gonzatov with the 2 goals for Danbury, and McCollum. Yeah, he's better in this. He'll have a bounce back, no doubt. 19 of 23 stopped for the game. All right, so last game was another goaltender duel, and yeah, it went late. Now, the shots on goal are not correct on the Fed website, so that's why these are highlighted or underlined in green. This is what I saw, and so I'm going to report it on this because I specifically saw this. All right, no score, no score, no score. Very evenly flowed game. Now, obviously, Columbus, one of the top teams in the league. They are tough to stop. They are offense, offense, offense. And Sean Kuhn stopped everything that came his way. Conversely, Monroe, they looked much better, much improved over their opening weekend, and yet they couldn't get anything past Sammy Bernard. Simba looked really good, made the saves he had to. And then in the third period, this is where the tide turned. Columbus ratcheted up the D, and Monroe could not get any shot on goal. I mean, there were sticks everywhere, poke checking, there was sweep checking, there was forward checking. Monroe just could not generate a chance to get a shot on goal until very, very late. Now, the shots on goal for the third period say 8-0. It's actually 10-2. And again, I watched, so I counted this. At this point, it was, there was only 2 games left that were being played. So now my attention was really on this game. So we get to the end of regulation time. Shots, as shots at this point were 30 to let's count it out, 30 to 20 in favor of the River Dragons. And again, the two shots on goal that Monroe did get in the third period were pretty easy saves by Bernard. So go to overtime, and again, Columbus, their defense is making it very difficult for Monroe to get a quality shot on goal. They did get a couple. One good save that Bernard had to make, and he made it. And then somehow, some way, Nolan Slaheta, he finally finds a way of getting a puck past Sean Kuhn, scores at 141 of the overtime session on the second shot for the River Dragons of the overtime period, and they win the game 1-0. So kudos both to Sammy Bernard and Sean Kuhn. Sean Kuhn got a workout in, 32 saves out of 33 opportunities. Very, very entertaining game, and a good crowd too. 3692 on hand. Very entertaining game. Great way to end the night. I love a good old fashioned goalie duel, being a former goalie myself. So there you go. There is our rundown of the first full day of games in the FPHL. Tonight there are 6 games that will be played. The Zydeco and the SeaWolves have the night off, but everybody else will be in action once again tonight. So let's see what kind of results we get. All right, so there you go. Again, I apologize. I can't get all the details from every game. It's just not, my mind is not wired that way. I had a hard enough time getting enough detail for the 3 games that I did focus on. So that's how we're gonna end up doing things. There will be 3 games with a heavy focus for each day, and then the other games I'm just gonna likely highlight on. All right. So, and I'm going to rotate teams. I mean, I'm going to be watching 3 different games tonight. I'm not going to be watching these 3 teams play tonight. So, anyway, that's what we got. And let me know what you think. Let me know your reaction to what you saw last night down in the comments down below. Make sure to hit like, subscribe, make sure to share. Tell people we're here on Facebook, on YouTube, and on the Flash Audio Network. All right, guys, I'm Gary Ryan for the Fed League Flash, and this will get better too as we get deeper into the season. I'll improve. All right, thank you guys for watching. We'll catch you tomorrow.